than we do on the carpenters, framers, plumbers, and electricians who build. Isn't that insane? Like when you buy a house, do you not find it incredible? You have this beautiful house. You say, well, where did the money, I'm buying the house for, now it's $1 million. Where does the $1 million go to? You break it down, lumber, materials. You think more money goes to people sitting in government offices than goes to the people swinging the hammers, fitting the pipes, framing the lumber. It doesn't make sense. We need to cut the bureaucracy. That's why my common sense plan will require cities to free up land, speed up permits, cut development charges and fees as a condition of getting federal funds. If they don't hit my targets, they won't get their money. And there'll be less of those bureaucrats in those corner offices. So if they beat the target, they'll get more money. We're going to pay our municipalities the way we pay realtors and builders for the number of homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, Go Live TV, please.
My name is Juliano Luca from Go Live TV. And then you answered pretty much all my questions. I'm very proud, and we're going to make Canada great again. My question for you is, we have a big issue when we come to safe. I came to this country 20 years ago because they tried to kidnap me and my family back home in Brazil. So I came to Canada because it used to be one of the safest countries in the world. And my kids being raised here, I was happy here, but unfortunately we have the worst government ever. And they turn our lives really hard. You know, so I always pay my taxes. I own broadcast television with 23 different languages. We broadcast to 20 countries. We work. But after pandemic and before pandemic, it's been hard for us media because Trudeau spent all the money with the massive media, and you forget the people who's really, do the job out there. So, and regarding to the safe, we have the wars of drugs, wars of, because they don't call mafias anymore, they call wars of the drug dealers, and they shooting all over the place, our kids not safe anymore. So, are we going to have our guns, we're going to have a right to have our handguns back under government, or not?
Well, first of all, the government has not taken the handguns away. What he's basically done is said that professional sport shooters, retired military personnel, off-duty police officers, and others with advanced possession and acquisition licenses can't replace their parts or pass down their property to family members. And that has done precisely nothing to bring public safety. Gun crime is up over 100% under Justin Trudeau because he's going after people with advanced licenses that are trained, tested, RCMP vetted. Those people are not the criminals. What I want to do, instead of going after law-abiding, is stop the illegal guns from coming in. Because all the crime in Canada is being done with smuggled firearms, mostly from the United States. So what we need to do is, as I said, scan the shipping containers. Spending $2 to $7 billion to go around buying guns from licensed owners is doing nothing. In fact, now he can't even figure out how to do that. He's now asking the Canada Post if the mailman will go collect the guns. It's not a joke. He's actually sending mailmen. He asked Canada Post CEO, could you send the mailman out into the neighborhoods and knock on doors and ask people if they'll hand over their firearms? And Canada Post said, hell no, we're not doing that. It's crazy, it's not our job. But he spent $40 million on trying to buy guns from licensed owners. That money should be spent on scanners to scan the shipping containers and on border security to stop the smuggling at the border. And finally, we need mandatory prison times reinstated for gun criminals. Trudeau reduced the penalty for gun criminals. And now they go out on the street and shoot up the neighborhood again and again and again. Extortion. He lowered the penalty for extortion with a gun. Used to be a mandatory prison sentence of 5 years, he got rid of that. Let's punish the criminals, not the licensed, law-abiding, trained and tested firearms owners. Thank you.
Next is Y Media.
Hi Pierre, Surya from Y Media. So first of all, Y Media, to thank you for conducting such ethnic roundtable for the people and the community. My question here is, will you conduct such ethnic roundtable once you become the Prime Minister?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And can you just say the importance of having such an ethnic roundtable for the people in the community?
Yes, I love the independent media. I am the biggest champion of real media. And what I love about the multicultural media in Canada is it's not controlled by the government. You know, the media on Parliament Hill is basically controlled by the Prime Minister's office. That's not media. Those are just like PR flags. The multicultural media, they're entrepreneurs. They pay their bills by winning eyeballs and earlobes, and they compete for audiences. All of you have audiences. That's why you're in business, and that's why I talk to you. I don't do this with the media on Parliament Hill. I come out, I say a few words, and I leave because it's just a waste of time. I spend more time talking to you and your fellow journalists, independent journalists, than I do by far I spend on any Parliament Hill media. So I'll keep doing that, and I will also make sure you get your fair share of government advertising. So it shouldn't all be going to big corporate controlled and government run media. It should go to independent voices like you.
Moving on, Prime Asia TV, please.
Thank you. Can we say that today's politics has become the politics of convenience? Reason, Bill C-381 by Deputy Leader, which was to keep extortionists in the jail for a long time, that failed in the Parliament. Foreign interference, NDP voted against that. Change of the election dates, just if we change to one day, it will cost taxpayers 120 million. So everywhere we see that political parties, they are acting as just as their own convenience, and they are not thinking about taxpayers. Taxpayers are struggling today, either the mortgage or the crime or the, we name it, housing prices, the international students, the immigration, everybody is struggling today. So politics has become, in Canada, has become a politics of convenience. And after that, I would like if prosecutor MP Brock also say a few words on the AI scan result, because we are following MP Brock for a long time, and we are working very hard on those scandals, and Canadians are shocked with all the results so far. But where that will lead to in the end? Will anyone will be charged, they will be behind the bar, or it will keep on rolling for another 1 year, and we are putting taxpayers' money on those investigations. What will be the result? But first on that. Thank you.
Look, on the pension thing, it's, Trudeau's trying to bump the election back a few weeks so that he can, that all of his MPs are eligible for a pension. Jagmeet Singh is on a coalition with Trudeau. Why? Because Singh needs to go until 2025 before he becomes eligible for his pension. That's what's going on right now. You need a government that actually works for the people. And we want an election, a carbon tax election right now. We don't want to wait, because Canadians can't afford another year and a half of Trudeau and Singh. On the right, what did you go ahead?
On the foreign interference.
Foreign interference. So, okay, the government actually introduced a decent bill, C-70. This will bring a foreign agent registry that will allow us to track anyone who's paid by a foreign government to influence our democracy. And it will do a number of other things to help protect against the interference of Beijing, of Russia, and of other foreign interests. We told the government, we sent a letter to the Liberal minister and said, we'll help you pass this. We want it to be law by Canada Day. Jagmeet Singh has stood up to block it now. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know who he's trying to protect, what foreign interest he wants to preserve, but he's the obstacle, and you can see it. We offered unanimous consent to pass a government bill, and only Jagmeet Singh objected to it. So I don't know, you should ask Jagmeet Singh why he's blocking foreign interference laws. Do you want more foreign interference in our country? Only he can answer that question.
So on the issue of Arrive Scan, we call it, not the Arrive Can, we're still scratching the surface. We know the Auditor General has completed a report, and she's mused that in her over 3 decades, over 30 years of auditing and accounting experience, this is one of the worst bookkeeping examples she has ever seen from a federal government. So the price tag is at least $60 million. It could be much, much more. We are still calling witnesses to committee. We are still asking the tough questions. But to your point, sir, regarding accountability, I can say for absolute certain that the RCMP is taking an interest. The RCMP has received a number of referrals, not only from our party, but has received referrals from commissioners, the Auditor General being one of them. We don't know the status of the investigation. It is my desire and my hope that it'll lead to criminal charges. We have a lot of bad actors in Ottawa. These are contractors and subcontractors that were hired by, you heard the phrase GC Strategies, have you heard that company? A 2-person company working in their basement who do nothing but connecting the government of Canada with IT professionals, and received 20 million taxpayer dollars for doing nothing than acting like a Rolodex, making a connection. It's a scam, it's a sham. We are hoping that people will be found accountable, will be brought to justice, that it will lead to criminal convictions, and we're hoping that the government, they promised Parliament weeks ago to provide a plan to move forward, to receive money back, to recover the monies that went to these contractors who were engaged in fraudulent activities. We haven't received particulars yet from Justin Trudeau, but we're going to push that government to receive those details. Thank you. Moving on to Abler HD Canada.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is Santoshi from Abler HD Canada. So my question is, do you think, sir, is it easy to stop the using hard drugs because it's being manufactured by different categories of chemical? How it can be possible to stop all those chemicals? Or do you think is it good to regulate those chemicals instead of banning it?
It's a good question. Let's start with how did we get into this mess? Corrupt pharmaceutical companies distributed OxyContin en masse for billions in profit by lying about its lethality and its addictiveness. That got hundreds of thousands of North American people addicted. About 500,000 Americans have died, and 40,000 Canadians. So the government said what we need to do is have a safe supply of this. Government should pay to give out pharmaceutical grade drugs to addicts so that they don't get contaminated street drugs. This experiment has been a disaster. Since it started, the number of overdoses is up 200% nationwide and 380% in British Columbia, where the experiment has most thoroughly been carried out. It's a nightmare. The drugs that the government is giving out are the same kinds of drugs that started the crisis in the first place. It's the same drugs that started. Justin Trudeau gave me a call. But it's the same drugs that got the crisis in the first place, and we're now paying to give out even more. We need to stop giving out drugs. We need to ban hard drugs and invest in treatment and recovery services. get our people off the streets and into treatment. That is the only way that we will be able to end the drug crisis. Treatment, recovery, not legalization, and subsidization of drugs. Thank you.
Moving on to Hamdard TV.
Hello, Sarit here from the media. It's just a simple question about the immigration. Like there is protest going on, like in Prince Edward. Like there is protest in Brampton also regarding international students whose work permit going to be like finished in September or July. And I just need to ask, like Justin Trudeau government just only focusing on the people outside the Canada, like they are calling immigrants or refugee from Gaza, UK. They're not worried about the people who are living in Canada, like they're paying taxes on time, they're following the rules, but they are just worried about the outside people. What's your views on that?
It's just an incredible mess that Trudeau has made. We didn't have these problems before Trudeau. We had an international student program that welcomed people. We had housing, incomes, and an admissions letter from a real educational institution in numbers that we could absorb. And so we didn't have to, we didn't have these people in the streets begging not to be deported. Most came either with a clear understanding of what it would take to stay here or a plan to move on to another place after their studies were done. But Trudeau allowed a massive, uncontrolled increase in the number of international students who didn't have housing. In Brampton, the city says they found 26 international students living in one basement. This is insane. 26 kids in a basement in one house? It's just of this world. And what did he do? The guy who screwed up the immigration system, Sean Fraser, Trudeau made him the housing minister. Like, in my world, when you screw up, you get fired. In Trudeau's world, when you screw up, you get promoted. It's incredible. And then the temporary foreign worker program is being used by corporations to bring in low-wage workers from poor countries to suppress labor rates in our country. So when I was responsible for temporary foreign workers as the employment minister, we had 50,000 temporary foreign workers in Canada. Now there are 300,000. Like, it's a six-fold increase in one decade in the temporary foreign worker program. You're telling me that no Canadians could have done those jobs? Ridiculous. We have to crack down on companies that are abusing the system to undercut Canadian wages. And there's massive fraud in the sale and resale of LMIAs. Everybody knows it. It's a hugely corrupt system. We're going to clean up the corruption, bring the numbers back down to reasonable levels, and we're going to make sure that if people come here as students, they have a real admissions letter, a place to live, and an income to pay their bills, so that the horrors that we're witnessing in our streets come to an end.
Thank you. MC News.
I'm representing MCs. For the past few days, our industry has been under job collapse. Many companies have collapsed because the drivers are not paid. The amount makes the millions of dollars is significant.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what's been happening in the last few days? I would be happy to look into that. I wasn't aware of it. So is it that there are a number of trucking companies that are just recently declared bankruptcy?
Like most of the workers are not paid and all from few companies.
Because of bankruptcy.
They are not getting real work.
You're not getting real.
The work, because the job has come down, they're not getting opportunities to work and they're not paying for the workers.
So there are two reasons. One is bankruptcy, one is wage theft. Because most of the truck drivers, they are working as a corporations, not as an employee. So when this company also went bankrupt, so they said those who are on a payroll, we can see insolvency, we can pay. But most of the 99 truck drivers, they are on corporations. so no one gets anything. So there was a wage theft issue also that's related to
So it's
this.
part of trucker Inc.
It's part of it because my question was that trucking is a backbone of Canadian economy,
Oh, yeah.
and that hit means every industry got hit.
Oh, absolutely.
With the carpentry and with all these ways.
And if I may then, this is what the use of makes some comparison because they are paid according to some criteria depends on how long it will take, how long as they will be there. This adds on to the
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, let me start with just a general comment on trucking. The carbon tax has been devastating for this trucking industry. It's adding millions of dollars of extra costs for trucking businesses because it raises diesel prices by 17 cents. Trudeau wants to raise that to 61 cents a liter. It will devastate trucking and truckers. I will axe the tax. Secondly, we will build the roads. We have a wacko environmental minister, Gilbo, who does not believe in roads. He says we're not building any more roads. And that's why the federal government has been blocking key new arteries that will allow our truckers to get cargo to market. We need to invest in building roads so that our truckers can deliver the goods. As for bankruptcies and payouts, the employment law requires wages to be the first thing to be paid in the event of bankruptcy. We as conservatives brought pensions to the front of the line as well in bankruptcy so that people won't lose their pension when their business goes bankrupt. But if there are other abuses that we need to know about, then I welcome you to bring them to me. I would be happy to look into it and fight for those truckers to get paid. Thank you for bringing this to my attention.
Thank you. Moving on to Hawa, Toronto.
Thank you. Here, first of all, this is not the question, but I need your take on. Do you really prepare for the counter-attacks on Trudeau, like the one you had? Give him a big hand. He's coming up with the catalog.
No, I don't prepare for it.
Really?
No, it's best when I don't prepare.
It's like Hollywood. Yeah,
Did you enjoy that one?
I did.
Sometimes we just roast Trudeau, that's it.
Yeah, and the background results are right. There are lots of mixed messages going for the Arabic-speaking Canadians. Especially when we come from different backgrounds, different candidates, and of course, some of them are not getting the real message. What's your take, and how do you tackle this because you are losing?
Listen, I share the values of our Canadians of Arab descent of faith, family, and freedom. I share their desire to stand up for parents' rights of parents to raise and teach their kids their own values on things like sexuality and gender. We also need to protect the religious freedom of all people, including Muslims, Arab Christians. I know that some people have disagreement with my stand in defense of the Jewish people. Look, I want to see peace in the Middle East. I want Palestinian people to have an eventual state that is democratic and free from terrorism and from Hamas, that lives in peace and tranquility next to a vibrant Jewish state. And I believe that can happen. We need to defeat Hamas. Hamas can't stay in power. They can't keep the hostages. Hamas needs to be removed so that the Palestinian people can rebuild their lives and eventually have a state. That is my hopeful message to Arabs, to Muslims, to all people.
Thank you. Next is 5 AAB TV.
Mr. Poilievre, you say that BC's policy of legalizing cannabis will create chaos and carnage across Canada. Whereas the Liberals, they support this policy. On the other hand, talking about BC's Ministry for Health, for Mental Health and Addiction, they state
that during the first 9 months of the run of this policy, there has been a 77% decrease in the possession-related offences as well as
Of course.
yeah, and
Because
as
it wasn't an offense to possess.
and as well as there's also a decrease in the seizure of drugs which was meant for less than under 2.5 grams.
Yeah.
My one straight question to you will be then why is there not a clear stand on this issue, given that fact that it is a very sensitive matter which deals with the Canadians, which deals with the life of the Canadians, and on top of it, on the future of the Canadians. Why can't there be a clear stand on this issue and we get to see and hear a lot of mixed statements coming from different political parties on this?
Okay, so let's start with the facts that the Public Health Bureau in BC put out. They say that possession-related offenses are down, what, 70%?
77%.
That's because it's not an offense to carry the drugs. So that's like saying, well, I've got a great idea on how to reduce murder charges. We'll just legalize murder. And then we can say there's 100% reduction in the charges related to murder because it's no longer legal. It's no longer illegal. That's the same kind of twisted logic that they're using. They say, well, drug seizures are down. Well, of course they're down because it became legal to possess the drugs. But it's not an achievement. What matters is the actual outcome, which is that there has been a 380% increase in overdose deaths in British Columbia from the time Trudeau and the provincial NDP took office to last year when the decriminalization was in effect. So it has been a massive increase just in the 9 month. The 9 month period when it was decriminalized was the largest number of overdose deaths in the history of any province anywhere in Canada, ever. These public health bureaucracies have been taken over by radical NDP liberal ideologues that are pushing their agenda on the population. And the last thing they want is to solve the problem, because then they would be out of business. With the growing drug addiction crisis, these bureaucracies will say, we need bigger budgets. I need a bigger staff. I need another office. I need another grant. I need to give out more money to more interest groups that can help. We're building out this enormous misery industry that keeps the problem growing so that they can keep growing. So that's why they put out the statistics that are obviously ridiculous, like those ones. The only statistic that matters is how many people are dying of overdoses, and under the decriminalization scheme, it went through the roof. So I am going to defund these bureaucracies. I'm going to defund the programs that give out drugs, and I'm going to give the funds to treatment facilities, beautiful treatment facilities. I visited them, they're incredible. None of them support decriminalization or subsidizing drugs. They offer detox, counseling, physical fitness programs, residential programs where the addict lives in a residence away from the drugs. They break the addiction over about 100 days. Then they can graduate into an adjoining housing complex where they live for another 3 or 4 months, easing their way back into society, coming back for a counseling session, a workout, or even to mentor an income. This is the virtuous cycle that will get people off drugs and into a productive family life in our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Epoch Times.
Hello, Mr. Poilievre, it's good to see you. My name is Pierre with the Epoch Times. My question is also on foreign agent registry legislation. Do you think this Bill C-70 is enough to address foreign interference? And what other step would you suggest the government do, or do yourself, if you become Prime Minister, what would you do to safeguard Canadians from such threats?
I would say it's a step in the right direction. I don't think it's enough, but it's a step in the right direction. And so our caucus has made the decision to support the bill and push for its prompt adoption. I think we need stronger and more professional intelligence. I think we need more competent people running our intelligence operation. We need a prime minister who listens to the intelligence and acts on it. We need RCMP. We need, frankly, new leadership at the RCMP so that they can shut down the Beijing-controlled police stations on Canadian soil. We need to ban the IRGC, which is a terrorist organization backed by the government of Iran and is interfering in our country and fomenting these ugly uprisings and anti-Semitic attacks. Those are some additional steps that I would like to take in addition to above and beyond Bill C-70.
Thank you. Vinjo Media.
Oh, did you want to say anything to that on foreign interference? I think we were gesturing to this.
What did you want to hear from me?
Do you want to add anything on the C-70 or foreign interference?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with the leader. It's certainly a step in the right direction. I don't know if you were following events this week in the House, but we tried to get unanimous consent to pass this piece of legislation because the experts have told us it's going to take about a year to a year and a half to fully implement. So potentially that could fall between now and the next general election. We certainly know from Justice Hogue, who's conducting the foreign interference inquiry, that while the results, the ultimate results, would not have been impacted, there's no discounting that ridings have been heavily influenced by foreign interference. So we certainly don't want to go down that road again. We want to give the tools to our security agents so that they can properly combat this. So we tried to bring this unanimous consent motion, and the NDP turned it down. All right? So we are at the process right now. We have to continue our debate, get it into committee, and dispatch track. Thank you. Vinjo Media.
Hi, I'm Vinod John. The entire world is waiting for the big news from India. Maybe next week we'll know who will be leading the country again, whether it is Narendra Modi or new team. Leave it to them. But what will be your stand or your party stand, or as a prime minister, future prime minister? What are you planning to take Canada into your relations with the next level, considering the crisis?
Considering the
The crisis we have
here in Canada.
Trade relationship between India and Canada, which is all time low.
Well, my priority is to stand up for our country and our interests over here. I want to sell our natural gas to India. National Bank did a study showing that with India's growing electricity demand, if we sold them enough gas to supply half of that demand, we could reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 3 times as much of the total emissions of Canada, because we would displace dirtier coal. If they don't get gas, they're going to use coal. We have 1,300 trillion cubic feet of gas in Canada that could be supplying the electrical grid of India and other energy-hungry Asian countries. So I want to promptly approve LNG liquefaction facilities to sell that gas to India and other aggressive Asians. Second, we need to sell our civilian-grade uranium from Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan is the biggest trading province with India. Do you know that? Saskatchewan. I would have thought it would have been BC, but it's Saskatchewan. I want to sell more uranium. I want to sell uranium from Saskatchewan to power nuclear facilities that will generate clean, green, emissions-free electricity for the Indian grid. Third, I think we can expand our sale of lentils. We grow beautiful lentils on the prairies, and I want to get more lentils into the Indian market. So those will be some of the priorities that I will work on with whomever the Indian people choose as their next prime minister. Thank you.
Hindi Times, please.
Yeah, that's me. Okay. Just to follow up on the India question, which was raised before. This mid-June issue has came up so many times, and the people protested here, and between India and Canada, the relationship has gone back to worse.
and that nation. So one take on that, what you want to say, and another thing I would like to ask about the justice system, which is so broken in that way that the people are waiting for years and years, and I myself became the victim of it. So, and people are asking, a lot of crime come to ask us that, Mr. Tiwari, is this, next government is going to be better, we should leave. And a lot of people are leaving from here. In between, when you see that, even I was myself shocked, that the Pearson airport, the 400 kilograms of gold heist. I was shocked that the criminals, they were booked for over $5,000 crime, where over 22 million. So that's just, so I was like, okay, so this $5,000, that's the case. So somebody has $26,000. So that, and the person who has did the biggest money heist, which was all over the world, is the same thing. So, Mr. Book, I want to your view on it too, and Pierre, your view on that, especially with the justice system. Yes.
Yeah. So we condemn. I strongly condemn the murder of Mr. Nijar, and I hope that the murderers never leave prison, and that anyone who's involved is held accountable for it. And that brings us to the second issue of justice. And by the way, I condemn all form of foreign interference. It is totally unacceptable for any foreign government to interfere in our country in any way, shape, or form. We condemn any foreign interference in any of these matters. On the issue of justice, we need to get rid of the catch and release system. Catch and release is causing more crime. The same 40 offenders had to be arrested 6,000 times in BC. Why? Because they get out on bail, and then they're rearrested, and then they're retried, and then they're released, and they're rearrested, and they're retried over and over again. If we just left them in jail, then they wouldn't be able to reoffend, and then we would have less demand on straining our justice system. Secondly, the Trudeau government has not been appointing judges. We have a shortage of judges to process criminal trials. How many short are we right now?
89.
89 judges. At which level of the court?
Federal.
Federal court. So 89 judges are not appointed. So the cases sit and sit and sit. And then, because the offender's case is dragged on, the charges get dropped. Because under the rules the Supreme Court has established, is it the Jordan principle? You can't be charged to eternity. It's unfair. It's not really fair to either the accused or to the victim. You have a case that's been run away, so they throw it out. And someone could commit a very serious crime and get off, not because they're innocent, but just because it's been too long. So appoint the judges, lock up the hardened criminals, reduce the strain on the system, and give both victim and the accused justice quickly.
Just one thing on the nature issue that you mentioned. Were you briefed, or are you sure that that Indian government has interfered in that system?
The Prime Minister has said that there is credible evidence of a link, and that is what he has said. That's what he said.
What's your take on it? Do you take it worse? Anything from your side?
I don't have information above and beyond what the Prime Minister has. So he's the one who is in a position to speak on that. Obviously, we condemn the killing, and we're very concerned about the government's report to the House of Commons through the Prime Minister of a credible link.
And the government has flatly denied.
This is one of the reasons why we need to protect our people in this country, and that's what I will do. It's clear that Canada's population is under threat by Justin Trudeau's failure to protect our people. We are not protecting Canadians. Never before has our population been more under threat. These sorts of things weren't happening before Trudeau. I don't ever remember things like this, but because he's unleashed crime and chaos in our community, everyone's in danger. Thank you.
Very briefly, I know we're short on time. The number one objective of any federal government is to keep Canadians safe. And for that, Justin Trudeau gets an absolute F for failure. On the justice front, one of the prime reasons why I left a very comfortable, lucrative 30-year career is I was not happy seeing a justice system that I was very proud of once fall into disrepute and to disrepair. Not enough judges, not enough money going into courthouses to build better facilities, being constrained by appellate decisions that Pierre had referenced, the Jordan principles. Do you know the number of first-degree murder charges in this country that have been tossed out because of a lack of resources, a lack of judges, a lack of courtrooms, a lack of personnel? It's astonishing. These murderers walking free because of a decision by the Supreme Court of Canada. It's easy fix. 89 vacancies right now. That number fluctuates every month, every year. Judges are retiring. This Justice Minister, the Attorney General of Canada, takes a pat on his back by saying that he's one of the very few number of Attorney Generals that have appointed as many federal court judges as fast as he has, yet there's still 89 vacancies. The chief of the Supreme Court of Canada wrote to the press, crying out for resources. I don't know what it takes. Hundreds and thousands of lawyers across this country are applying to the bench. Start hiring people. There's a process that's independent of government. They make recommendations every single month. They're not doing enough. It's also a shared responsibility with the provinces. The provinces need to be hiring their provincial judges who do the lion's share of criminal justice work. They need to be building the courthouses, improving the facilities in our detention centers and our correctional facilities so that the judges are not saying to themselves, well, you know, maybe I should release this accused because going into a provincial facility, the inhumane conditions surrounding that, I think he'd be better off in the community. That's not right. It's a shared responsibility, so provinces and territories across this country need to do their part as well. Thank you. Okay, moving on to New Pathways newspaper.
Thank you, Mr. Poilievre. It was very heartening to hear from you that you will prefer the ethnic media to the mainstream media, that you do already prefer them, and hopefully it will continue when you are Prime Minister. So what's your plan towards CBC? So if you were to fund it, you would free up a handsome amount to buy some advertising from the ethnic media, because the ethnic media has its own features, but we all suffer from from the shifts in the information consumption, and the media is not doing that well.
I will defund the CBC to save $1 billion, and we will, when it comes to advertising, governments do have to advertise to give people information about public health issues and natural disasters, government policy changes, etc. We will make sure that multicultural media gets more than its share of that advertising money.
Okay, folks, we have to speed things up. We have less than 10 minutes. I've got 5 outlets. Rapid fire questions, please. Moving on to AHA Radio. AHA Radio, anybody?
Yes, hi Mr. Poilievre, how are you? So basically the question is like, in our community, like there is a lot of problem with the public sector and the health sector, shortage staff. And the international students, there is a lot of international students coming in, and they are not to get the right jobs in the field of their study. So taking the advantage of that, of the international students, is it possible, is there any plan for you to bring those courses which will be advantage for the public sector and the health sector.
Courses, what do you mean by courses?
The international students, the courses which might be helpful for the health sector, so that we can fit the shortage in that particular.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the courses that are offered in our post-secondary institutions are all determined by the province. But one area I'm going to address is recognition of immigrant credentials. We have 20,000 immigrant doctors, 32,000 immigrant nurses blocked from working in their field because they do not have a license. It is very hard to get through the licensing system, so my proposal is to create a new blue seal national testing and licensing standard for the provinces to opt into that will allow immigrant doctors and nurses to take a test, prove they're qualified, and get licensed within 60 days rather than 7 or 8 years. In the States, they use an international exam, and that allows, for example, Filipino nurses to get licensed in a couple of weeks. But here in Canada, 85% of Filipino nurses cannot work in nursing. So we give them a chance to take a blue seal test, get licensed, get to work, and reduce the wait times in our hospitals. Thank you.
Awaz Entertainment.
Here. Hello, Mr. Poilievre. I have one question. So the NDP leader Jagmeet Singh just proposed an idea to document the undocumented immigrants in Canada. So my question is, will you support a comprehensive program to regularize undocumented migrant status in Canada?
Well, it depends what you mean by that.
Do you support Jagmeet Singh on his statement that they should give status to around 40 to 50,000 undocumented immigrants in Canada?
Well, you have to wonder what's going on if you have 450,000 undocumented people in our country. Is that what he's saying?
40 to 50,000.
40 to 50,000?
Yes.
Okay, so I heard you say 450,000. Look, we have to invite people illegally to have to come in through the front door in the legal process. We can't have illegal immigration in our country. And I support lawful control immigration that brings in people in numbers that we can house, employ, and care for. What I don't support is uncontrolled or illegal immigration. I haven't seen Mr. Singh's proposal, but I will look at it with the principles I just described. Thank you.
Thank you. Toronto 360 TV.
Thank you very much. My question is about the property tax and real estate. Okay. You are opposing the parties for the provincial government for the lot of control. On the other side, the country needs money to run the economy. What would be your practical tax plan to reduce the taxes? The taxpayer money will go back to the people and balance the budget.
The irony is the carbon tax doesn't actually generate a lot of revenue because it destroys so much economic activity. The parliamentary budget officer says it will reduce GDP by $18 billion this year because, for example, it hurts truckers. If you make it more expensive to transport goods, fewer goods are transported, fewer jobs are created, fewer people are paying taxes. Excessively high taxes strangle economic activity and lower our ability to fund programs. So lowering taxes on production and business can often generate the growth that pays for itself. But we're rolling back excessive government spending. We'll cap spending with a dollar for dollar law requiring we find $1 of savings for every $2 of spending. Cut the infrastructure bank, the Arrive Can't program, the $21 billion that we're now spending on outside consultants, and countless other examples of waste and mismanagement will be eliminated so that we can balance the budget to bring down interest rates, inflation, and income tax. Thank you.
24 News Live.
Doesn't want to ask. Okay.
So basically what the gentleman is asking is about about the refugees, and he's saying that he wants to know what we're going to do about protecting Canadians from terrorists and criminals. And we need more. We found out the other day that the immigration minister lied when he said that people who come to Canada have a criminal background check. They don't have a criminal background check. And that's why do you think people are getting murdered? Because some illegal, some people are breaking the law and who have criminal background checks were not vetted beforehand. We all believe that immigration is good, that lawful, upstanding citizens are coming to help build our country, but we need a criminal background check to make sure that anyone who comes here is law-abiding. And that's an obvious thing that the government said it was doing, but then ultimately we found the exact opposite to be true. In fact, there aren't criminal background checks. We need to check the background of people who come to our country. This should not be Canada is a place for law-abiding, hard-working, tax-paying, patriotic people, and those are the people that we will continue to bring to Canada when I'm Prime Minister.
Thank you. Red FM.
Hi. Your slogan is "Let's bring it home," and the census shows, recent census shows that in 2022, 125,000 Canadians left Canada and moved to US. And the main reason was not only affordability, but they are losing interest in Canadians' politics as well as in politicians. So Canada is with Canadians. What's your instance on this?
I mean, they're losing interest in Justin Trudeau. That's what even if you read the news article by the CBC on it, they quoted a real estate broker in Florida who specializes in bringing Canadians to Florida. And he said that all of the comments he was getting is people want to get away from Justin Trudeau. That's not me saying that, this was on the CBC. Because they can't afford his taxes, his incredible red tape, his regulations, his suppression of free speech, the inflation, the housing costs he has caused. And so they want to go to a place where they can pay lower tax and housing bill, earn more powerful currency, the US dollar, and live without the oppressive, controlling policies of Trudeau. Frankly, if I don't become Prime Minister within the next 2 years, there will be a large sucking sound of businesses, money, and people leaving this country to go anywhere else they can to escape this guy. He's horrendous. He's the worst Prime Minister we've ever had. We have never seen someone do so much damage in so little time. And the way we bring our people home is we bring back the country that we all knew and loved. A country where hard work actually pays off, where taxes are low, where the government is servant and not master, where businesses can get fast permits to build things, fix things, move things, and do things. That's the big, beautiful, free enterprise country that I'm going to restore as president. Thank you.
Thank you. Sanja Punjab.
Hi, sir. Nice to see you again, and thank you for organizing this meetup. Everything has covered by all the media fellows, but one question came into my mind, like, what are your top 3 economic priorities for the country, and how do you plan to achieve them if you will be the Prime Minister?
My 3 priorities: axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget. That's my 3 priorities.
And and what about the student debt, and how they can, the higher education will be affordable for all the students, because sometimes students can't make it and they can't afford higher education. They are doing suicides, they are in mental health issues. So how you will handle that?
Axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget. Students are paying the tax, students are paying too much for rent, and the students are paying the inflation, all of which, the only way you can address those three things are by axing the tax, building the homes, fixing the budget.
Thank you. Sorry, folks, we got time for one more outlet, and that'll be Hotspot News.
If you are a new leader, what do you can do with the qualification?
Sell our resources to Europe. Right now, Europe is funding Putin by buying his gas and oil. They could be buying that from Canada. The Germans, the Italians, the Greeks, and the Japanese already all said they don't want to buy Russian gas. They want to buy Canadian gas. But because Trudeau is such an environmental radical, he doesn't even want us to sell our gas overseas. And he opposes it. I support it. I will bring in faster permits for natural gas liquefaction facilities so that we can sell billions of dollars of clean Canadian liquefied gas to break European dependence on Putin and turn dollars for dictators into paycheck for our people. What do you think? Let's bring it home.
Bring it home.